So this was a question that we asked: what percentage of women and girls aged 15 to 19 in each of these countries, and it was about 30-odd countries, do you think give birth each year? And you can see it's a rare occurrence, 2% across about these 30 countries, but these are the guesses from people. 23% is the average guess. In an all-girl class of 30, that's 6 or 7 baby showers every single year that are happening in those classes. Why are the public wrong about this? It's basically about the vivid emotional stories that we remember. You will never see a headline like this from any sort of newspaper, because the media are interested in unusual and emotional stories, because we are interested in unusual and emotional stories. And that type of connection, emotional connection that we feel to these types of stories is part of the reason for emotional innumeracy. So this basically says that we overestimate what we worry about as much as worrying about what we overestimate. So cause and effect run in both directions in terms of our estimates. Our view of the world, when we're estimating something, is affected by our emotions as much as the other way around. And for me, that has a really important and useful side effect, which is it makes misperceptions sometimes useful indicators of what we're really worried about underneath things. It's more automatic as a response than just asking people their attitudes towards things. So it gives you that sense of what's really on people's minds. But it also has vital implications for how we deal with it. We can't just use facts to correct people's views or correct people's sense of concern about stuff, because it partly misdiagnoses the cause, which is partly emotional. So myth-busting is seldom the full answer to shifting people's misperceptions about stuff. There's a second effect, which is that we're useless at spotting slow positive changes. So this is the change in trends in birth rates in teenage women and girls in America. We don't see these incremental slow changes, partly because they're not news, partly because we're useless at spotting them as humans. What we're much better at is we tend to focus on negative information. So it's not at all surprising then when you see that 80 to 90% of coverage of Muslims is negative, that we have a kind of skewed view. So there's incredible coverage. Muslims. It's Muslim convert beheads woman in a garden. Muslim plot to kill the Pope, not extremist plot to kill the Pope. It's a Muslim plot to kill the Pope, just a massive generalization. A bad reporting of survey data, and then, again, massive generalization, including from Donald Trump. I think Islam hates us, not extremists, the whole of Islam. So, no surprise then that we have massive overestimates of the Muslim population. Anybody know what it is in Britain? 5%, only 1% in the US, 8% in France. But these are the guesses across the different countries. 3 times the amount in Britain, 17% in the US instead of the 1%, and then 31% in France. Things are mostly not as bad as we think is one of the key elements of it. We also tend to think that things are getting worse than they are, due to an effect called rosy retrospection, where we edit out bad from the past. This is on the murder rate. I'll just give you one example of this. The murder rate is down in 25 out of 30 countries that we asked this question. This is since 2000 to 2016. Down by quite a bit, 29% average decline across these countries, but only 15%, that blue bit of the bar chart, think it's lower. Many more, nearly half, think it's higher. And this is used in media and politics all the time. The cliche about if it bleeds, it leads is a journalistic cliche for a reason, because it's true in terms of how the coverage always features in studies of news values. It always comes near the top of what makes it into the news. And you can see how it's used by politicians. So this was a famous set of quotes that Donald Trump came back to again and again on the campaign trail. The murder rate in our country is the highest it's been in 47 years, right? You won't hear the press saying that. There's a very good reason you wouldn't hear the press saying that, because it wasn't true in any sense. It wasn't true. It was much lower over that kind of period. What had happened was there was a high increase year on year in American cities in that period. So you've taken that and twisted it into something with a completely different meaning, but will get lost in this emotion of fear. What a lot of the fear-mongering aspects of it try to connect cause and effect on our fear. So just out, this was his intervention into the UK. Donald Trump again. United Kingdom crime rises 13% annually amid the spread of Islamic terror. Not good, we must keep America safe. So the 13% was more or less correct. A bit of it was to do with reporting changes, but there probably was an increase. But it's that That connection that he makes, and it's one of Fraser Nelson's best tweets, I think, is amid is a word loved by fake news websites, conflate correlation and causation. UK crime is also up amid the spread of fidget spinners. And that is very true, it's unarguable. So this rosy retrospection effect was looked at by Terence Mitchell, another US professor, who tracked people before, during, and after their holidays. And everyone goes through the same sort of pattern, nearly everyone goes through the same sort of pattern, where we all start with excited anticipation of the holiday. We're excited to be going away. And there's the reality of minor niggles while you are away on holiday, the things that don't quite go to plan. And that leads to a sense of mild disappointment when you're back, not just about being back, but about the holiday itself. And there's kind of people sort of immediately after the holiday, people are a little bit, okay. And then he went back to them again after periods of time, and everyone went through the same sort of thing of memory growing fonder the longer away we get from it. So, and the effect there was you literally edit out the bad bit. So you forget the kids being sick in the car, and you just think of the sunsets or the walks in the beach. That's the bit that sticks with you. So it's not a dumb fault of our brain. It's sort of psychological health-wise. It's quite good to not dwell on the bad bits and just remember the good bits. Not a terrible thing to do, but it has this side effect of making us think that the present and future is worse than it really is.